Howdy, howdy, and welcome back to another Workshop Wednesday. Today we're talking all about how to measure videos using Google Tag Manager. Now, if this is your first Workshop Wednesday, welcome. My name is Chris Mercer. I actually do go by Mercer, and I'm the co-founder here at measurementmarketing.io. Now, whether you found us through Digital Marketer, maybe you came in through CXL Institute, or found us through a Social Media Examiner, or some of the other platforms and trainings that we've done for other institutions and organizations, welcome. Maybe even you came from measurementmarketing.io. You're already a current member. Thank you, of course, for being a member, and welcome back to Workshop Wednesday. However you found us, we are glad that you are here. Our main job is to help people just like you figure out how to use these tools. Today, we're going to talk a lot about Tag Manager and how to use it to help inform Google Analytics about what's going on with videos. So we're going to talk a lot about that. And remember, when you're planning this stuff out, you're always thinking about the measurement marketing framework. It's 5 pillars: planning, building, reporting, forecasting, and optimizing. So in this case, and we're actually going to start this whole thing with me showing you what it looks like in Google Analytics, and then we'll backtrack from there. But when you're planning things out, you think about the questions you're trying to answer, the information you need to get those answers, the actions you're going to take based on the answers you get. So when it comes to videos, of course, some of the questions you're going to ask are which videos are actually getting interaction, which videos are people actually watching, like that sort of stuff. Well, you need to be able to collect that information, and Tag Manager is what will help us do that. So planning is when you think about those questions. Building, which is what we're going to do today, is where you actually will start putting the pedal to the metal, so to speak, and we're going to use Tag Manager to build that out so that you can get reports and ultimately begin to forecast and optimize your videos after that. All right. Now, with all of these trainings, one thing is the key concept, because it is so easy to get overwhelmed and frustrated by these tools because they're so big and they can do so much and it can get so technical so quick. And today's going to be one of those trainings. I want to warn you. Now, I thought long and hard about actually putting this into a beyond basics category, so that was slightly more advanced. And the truth is, some of this is good for getting started, and some of this probably should be in beyond basics, but we kept it in the getting started section because I thought it's important for you to think about, even if you're getting started with Tag Manager, to think about these things. So even if you are not comfortable doing this work yet, watch this workshop with that understanding that, oh, okay, that's how it's done. When I'm ready, I'll come to that. And of course, if you're already a member, you can use Ask Instructor Support, and we will help you out with things as well. All right, let's go ahead and get underway, shall we? Getting started using Google Tag Manager to measure video player interactions. Now we're just going to dive right in, and I'm going to start with Tag Manager. Not really. I'm actually going to start with analytics because I want to show you where this all ends up. I thought that would be helpful. So we're going to come into behavior. What we're talking about is putting in events, because that's what Tag Manager is really great for, using it to put in specific behaviors that are not otherwise being measured. So things like video interactions. So we go to behavior, events, overview, and this is ours. So this is our production site. And you're going to see here, we've got this little category called video. And then when I click onto video, there's my video categories, all the different events around video, which is not so helpful until you see that we have event action. And now I can see, oh, here's the videos that we have from Vimeo, which is a platform that we use, and also YouTube, which is, of course, another platform that we use for our videos. And you can start to see, okay, here's the different video types, video names, and what's coming through. I can then maybe click into the video itself, and I can get even more details around the video. How many people played, how many people paused, how many people actually watched it as we went through. Now, this is actually one of our newest videos, which I'm actually kind of cool because I haven't actually gone through these numbers yet myself, because I'm going to give it a few weeks to play here. But we just recently released this, so it's already got some events coming through. We see some people watching it, for the most part, watching most of it, which is great. That's kind of what I'm looking for. So, but this is how I can tell this, right? This is the information that I'm collecting around the video, so I can kind of see this. It's kind of cool. Now, what I'm going to do, in fact, you know what? Let me do this other thing, and I should never do this live, but I do this live all the time because I think it's important, because you're also going to mess stuff up live, potentially. So I'm going to go into YouTube and just see that one's tracking right. Should be, but let's find out. This is actually a video that we don't do a lot for, so I'm not too concerned about that. This is a new one that we are clearly testing, so never mind. Forget about this one. We're going to back up, not even worry at all about the YouTube video, at least for this test. I am going to show you it working because we have our demo site, so I'm going to show you that. All right, so long story short, events getting into Google Analytics is what you're going to use this whole thing for. You're going to build reports in Data Studio. You're going to maybe just use Google Analytics, whatever your own setup is like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip into our demo store here. And I call it a store. It's really not. It's just our little demo site. So let's see if we can find it. It is not that one. we're going to come into this one over here, demo account. There we go. And then we're going to come into workshop view for our demo account. All right, so here is our demo account. Now we're going to push events into it because right now I don't believe we actually have any. Let's see. Come into overview, at least during this date range. And nope, we have some engagement stuff that we had from our demo account, but nothing in terms of video or anything like that I can tell. Let me just make sure that we don't have anything before I check. Always TBV, trust but verify. Nope, nothing yet. Scroll, link, clicks, but we don't have any video stuff. So let's get some video stuff in here, shall we? How are we going to do that? Now we're coming back into Tag Manager. So what we're going to do first, and I've created this little demo site. So we've got some practice videos. I'm going to do it with YouTube. We're going to do it with Vimeo, and then we're going to talk about the other players as well, like Wistia and everything else. So YouTube, which is what this is. Now, how do you know it's a YouTube video? They all kind of have a similar look. You can always test and see, but you can see when you start to play, it says YouTube. So that's a YouTube video. So that's how you know if it's YouTube or not. If it's YouTube embedded here, then you know, great, I can use what we're about to cover to track this, right? To measure these different interactions. So how do we actually set this up? So what we're going to do is come into, I'm going to go into, let me see here. Yeah, I want to make sure this is always going to start at the beginning. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to come into Google Tag Manager, and we're going to set up two things first. The very first thing I'm going to do is come into variables, and I'm going to light up some variables, or at least TBV, trust but verify that some variables are already lit up, because there are some built-in video variables that you want to turn on with Tag Manager. So we're going to come into configure. I'm going to go down to where it says videos, and you can see all of these: video provider, status, URL, title, duration, current time, percent visible. These are already turned on. Yours probably will not be. They're going to look something like this. It'll be empty. So make sure you just, click them, turn them on. And now the Tag Manager itself is actually able to listen for the values of these variables. Now, one particular point of note is that this videos used to say YouTube videos. So if you're used to looking for the word YouTube, it's not there anymore. It just says videos. I personally find that to be a good sign because it makes me think Tag Manager might be sharing these variables with other things, other video players and other platforms. But for now, these really are YouTube things. They were built initially for YouTube. I think the idea is that ultimately other video platforms can start using them and playing around with them, and people will start using code to access them. Maybe that's the case in the future. It's not quite that way now. So when you turn these on, you're turning these on because you're using YouTube. If you're using Vimeo or something like that, you don't necessarily need these, at least not yet. Because they haven't been really combined into those platforms. But it looks like they're heading that way. I kind of like that direction. It just may take them a little bit of time. So at least as of this recording, this is what we're going to have to do for YouTube. So we turn on these listeners first, and it's going to listen for all these different variables and everything else. Then what we're going to do is we're going to come into our triggers, and we're going to create a trigger. Now I'm going to show you one that's already created here. They are very simple to set up, and then we're going to set one up together. I'm actually going to delete this and set this up together. So this is YouTube video trigger specifically for YouTube videos. Cannot use it for anything else. So YouTube videos, and you can put basically what you want. In this case, I've said, show me when somebody starts, show me when somebody completes, show me when somebody makes progress. How do we define progress? By percentage or time. I'm going to do it 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, or 20 seconds. And I know it's seconds because of this little descriptor over here. Then we click on the advanced add JavaScript API support, which is very often what you're going to need to do for YouTube videos. And then we tell it, okay, when do you start, right? And this is basically DOM ready is a good time to do that. Basically means when the video, wait a little bit for the video to load and make sure the video is loaded, and then you can start listening for the video. Because if you start listening for a video before the video is loaded, it's not going to work. So we'll talk about that in just a second. I'm going to walk through this setup with you. So this is kind of what it looks like. Now I'm going to delete it, and we're going to start over. So, oops, I already have an event set up. Let's do this. I'm going to get rid of that event as well. So I already have a tag that's set up to pass through video stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this. We'll get at everything. We'll come back and I'll show you how to set that stuff up too. Okay, so I'm going to go back into triggers. It's kind of the benefit of using demo accounts. So we're going to delete our little YouTube trigger out, and we're going to rebuild it together, you and I. So how do we do that? We go to new, then we're going to go into trigger, YouTube video. Remember, just YouTube is all this is for. It's all it's listening for, because these triggers have a specific purpose. So it's only listening for YouTube stuff, and only YouTube stuff that's embedded on your site or on the site where Tag Manager is. So that's what it's doing. So it by default says start and complete. I'm going to keep those. Notice progress is not there by default, so we have to check that. And then you say, oh, do you want 10%, 20%, 30%? To be honest, I would say this is what you use. And for us, that's what we do use. You see, we do 10, we do 25. We typically do 50, 75, 90, and that's about it. Kind of like what we would do with a scroll tracking or something. But for the purposes of this particular demonstration, because I don't want to have to wait, because I believe our video is 30 minutes, I don't want to wait 3 minutes to see if it's working. So we're going to do time thresholds, and I'm going to do 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, just so you can see it work. And again, we know it's seconds because it says seconds here. Be careful of this, because sometimes some of these triggers will say milliseconds, in which case it needs to be 5,000 milliseconds for 5 seconds. But in this case, it's seconds, so it's 5, 10, 15. Then, as I said, we're going to turn this on, just add JavaScript API. This just helps Google Tag Manager listen to things, and so that it can actually see what's going on with YouTube. And then by default, it's already on the DOM ready. Now, again, what this means is at what stage of the loading process of the page should Tag Manager tell this trigger to start listening for stuff. So in this case, the DOM ready is basically when all the HTML is sort of built and there and displaying on the page. That's when you tell it, okay, cool, now listen for this video. You have other options. You can make it on the container load, which is the page view. That means the second Google Tag Manager is activated, make this thing listen. But remember, it's like a snapshot. So what happens is if you make it on the container load, as soon as Tag Manager's container script goes live and starts doing its thing, this thing goes, okay, are there any YouTube videos? Let's do an inventory and let's start listening for them. But if that YouTube script has not loaded yet, then at that point, there are no YouTube videos. So imagine if I go to this page and I said, okay, as soon as Tag Manager script, I want you to listen to pages. Well, if Tag Manager's in the header up here when it loads, because that's how you install Tag Manager, and then all of a sudden it goes, great, now I'm active and I'm listening for YouTube videos, but it hasn't actually built the YouTube video yet, and then it's not going to see the YouTube video. And we don't want that. So that is why, and this is a relatively newer change. It came out sometime about a year and a half ago, where they added this to delay the trigger a little bit to let the page load. And that's why DOM ready is there. Sometimes, based on your setup, DOM ready still isn't enough time. You need to push it to window loaded. So if you have a problem where the video, it doesn't seem to be working for you, it might just be that the video is not loading fast enough. And so the listener is actually listening before the video is even there. And again, if at that point, the listener doesn't see anything, so it stops listening. So you want to delay it, and DOM ready is normally a good place to start. I would still do that and keep it as DOM ready, but know that you might have to push it back to window loaded, which is just ever so slightly a couple of nanoseconds past that. So there is the DOM ready, and then we're going to say all videos in this case, but of course you could say some videos and do the same thing you do with other tags, triggers, and variables with Tag Manager. Now, how are we going to name this? Glad you asked. So this is a YouTube trigger, so we're going to start with that. So it's YouTube. In this case, we're just going to do, so this is start, complete, and then I'll do something that kind of reminds me what the thing is. So essentially, whenever I name things, I try to do some sort of hierarchy. So starting with YouTube, in this case, it's start, complete, 5, 10, 15 seconds. If it was percentages that I was doing, which is what we would actually do, I might say 10, 25, 50, because I know that's percentages. But here it's just something that I can look at the name of the trigger in this case. I can, if I save this, you'll see, I can just look at the name and I know what this is doing by the name. If you just say YouTube trigger, well, does that mean start, complete, 5, 10, 15, or what was this? Was this the one that was I don't know. So you have to click into it and then figure out what you told it to do. So always try to put some tiny details in your names to remind you what the thing is. So when you're looking at it, you go, oh yeah, this is the one that start, complete, 5, 10, 15 seconds. Just like we did here, scroll with all these different percentage scrolls. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and I'm going to preview this first. We always preview first before we submit. And we're going to preview to trust but verify that it's working. So we know we're in preview mode because of a nice orange bar up here. And now I'm going to come into our page and we're going to preview this. I'm just going to refresh our page. That should show our preview window, which it looks like it does, which is great. So there's our little preview window. Now, in what I'm going to show you first, and this is just another lesson on previewing with Tag Manager, I'm going to click in variables and I'm going to take a look at what my variables are at different points in time. We're going to start with page view. So if I come down to page view, I can come down to all these video variables. Remember those video variables that we had? Look at them. They're all undefined. Now, why is that? Well, it's because at this point in time, there's no video trigger listening for anything. The variables haven't heard anything. They're not supposed to yet till that trigger pops in. So at this point in time, everything's undefined, and that's okay. Now, what do I expect to happen? What I expect to happen, and this is a very important lesson in measurement, you always think, okay, you don't just try stuff out and see what happens. You go, what should be happening here? And then you take the action. So what should happen is I click on this button. I should see something over here that says something about a video starting or something that's video oriented, right? We may not know right now, but we're gonna look for something that happens over here. That's basically Tag Manager telling you, yeah, I saw this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come and click into those new events, hopefully new events that will be there. And we're going to see what these different video values are. So we know what we're doing. Now, at this point, all we did was turn this on in Tag Manager. We're not actually doing anything with it. We set up variables by turning them on. We turned on the trigger. We created the new trigger, but we have not done anything to say, well, send this Google, to Google Ads or Google or to Facebook or to Google Analytics or anything else. We're not sending it anywhere. We're just seeing if this thing works and if Tag Manager even has access to the things that we wanted to have access to, which in this case are the YouTube video interactions. So we're going to click on play. Let's see what happens here. All right, good sign so far. So I see YouTube video. So what I'm going to do while it's playing is I'm going to click on YouTube video. There's another one. Let's see. We're going to click on YouTube video here. I see my variables have now changed. Now all of a sudden I have values. So I've got the current time of the video. So at this point in time, here at number 9, here is the video. Then I have the total duration. I believe this is in seconds of the video. Then we've got the percent at this point in time. I see the video provider was YouTube. I see it was start. So now I know video status contains the word start. I see the video title I have access to here. I see the video URL. This is actually the YouTube video URL on YouTube if I want to check it back, which is great. And I can see the video is visible in the browser, which is great. Now, if I go to number 10, look at these variables and watch what happens. We click on 10. You can see everything stayed the same, sort of. Current time is now 5 seconds in. Why? Because we set the trigger for 5 seconds. Remember, start, complete, and then 5, 10, 15. So 5 seconds in of the 2,098 seconds. It was 0% at that point in time. Still YouTube, but now the status says progress. So I can see progress and then 5 seconds is what I could report there if I wanted. Then I go to number 11, and in number 11, I've got current time 10, right? So still 0%, still YouTube, still progress, but now you're 10 seconds in, and then finally 15 seconds in, which is now video percent 1. Now, if I set this trigger up to say 10%, 15%, 20%, the same things would happen. Just the triggers would pop at different times, and I would say 10%, 20%, 50%, whatever. So what I'm going to do, now that I can see basically what Tag Manager has in its hands, and that's what the variables, that's how I think about it, is this is the stuff that's actually in the hands of Tag Manager. This is the stuff I can actually do something with. Now we're going to come back into Google Analytics, and I want to get those details into Google Analytics, right? That's what I want to do here. So how do we do that? So we're going to pass it through using Tag Manager, only now we're going to go into tags, because tags are all about, here's what I want you to do. So we go to tag, we're going to go to new tag, and then we're going to click into here. We're going to go to Google Analytics, and we're going to create an event tag, because remember, an event is a specific behavior. This one, we're just going to set it up just like I set it up in our other one. We're going to say video, because it's a video category. Then the action, this is what's kind of cool about variables, because remember, I can go back to the variables and you see like, video provider or whatever. So I could pull the video provider value if I wanted. What I'm going to do is just kind of hard code it right now. So I'm going to say the action is YouTube, because that's what it is. I'm just hard coding that. And then I'm going to let's put in the title of the YouTube video. So video title is what we're going to do. So we say action and then video title. Now, why am I doing it like this? Because I want the hierarchy of it. So I know that it's on YouTube. Here's the video on YouTube. Then I can drill down into that and find more details about this video. In particular, I want to know what the progress was. So we can say, status of progress or time. In this case, I'm doing time. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to push through the different time amounts. So how many seconds did they watch it? Because that's what we're doing as a test. If this was for real on my production site, we use percentages, because I think percentages are more useful. But there are times where sometimes you want to know if somebody watched 2 minutes and 37 seconds, because that's where a special message is for you. So time is super important. It's super valuable. So in this case, it's just really easy to demonstrate using time. So that's what we're going to do. So, and in this case, I'm just going to put the value of time. So X, and then I'm going to say seconds, because we know it's seconds. So how do we do that? We say video, pull up our variable. If I could spell video correctly, it'll pop up there. There we go. So video, and then we're going to say current time. So basically time as of this point when the trigger fired. And then I'm going to say seconds. Just a word. So now what'll happen is 0 seconds when it starts, and then 5 seconds, and then 10 seconds, and then 15 seconds, because that's the trigger. Speaking of, we got to make sure the trigger's there, but first I need to tell it where to go. So we're going to use our settings variable, or gas variable, to push it through. We say triggers, and then pull in our YouTube trigger, which we already TBV'd. We just TBV'd it. So we know the trigger's working. We know the variables have the right values at the right points in time, because that's what this was all about when we were clicking through the different points in time and seeing if the variables change. So now we don't have to use all the variables. We're only using 2 right now, the video time and current time, or the video title and current time. But know that you have access to the other ones if they were useful for you. So now we're going to save this. This is GA, because it's Google Analytics. It's an event, because it is an event. In this case, it is YouTube. So we're going to report YouTube. And then we're going to click on save. And now we're going to preview by just refreshing because we already have a preview open. So we refresh, look for this little block. Remember, just when you come down here, it'll blink very quickly, but that's how you know it's working. Now I'm going to come back here and we're going to do the same thing. Only now we're going to stop this. I like coming back down to 0 just to make sure. Now we're going to refresh this page again. And now, first thing I want to do before I start playing the video, remember, you don't go just start clicking on stuff. You want to think it through. Okay, first, am I in the right spot? Do I have the right container that I'm looking at, the right version of the container? And I do, because I can see there's my tag here, not fired. This is the new one I just created, right? We just created this one. So, okay, great. So now I'm going to look for it. So I'm going to pull this down a little bit so I can get the entire video there. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on here. What should happen? So as soon as I click this, we should see this fire. And it'll say fired 1 time. And then it'll fire another YouTube video and it'll say fired 2 times. And I'll fire another YouTube video, say fired 3 times. And another one will say fired 4 times, just like this does. See how it says fired 4 times? Because this one, the trigger fires 4 times. When it starts, 5, 10, 15 seconds in. And technically, if I let it go right to the end or moved it to the end, it would say complete. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on here. We're going to play it. We should see our YouTube video. There's number 1. And we see YouTube event fired 1 time. And now what we should see is fired 2 times in just a few seconds here. Assuming it's 5 seconds in as we go through, because that's really what we're looking for. Oh, look at this, making a liar out of me. How's that for fun? So there's our first YouTube video. We saw that. And let's go debug. So we're not seeing it fire, which is crazy because you and I just saw that, right? So we're not seeing that. But let's go find out why. Why are we not seeing all this happen? So we're going to come down to variables. That may have been just because I cached something accidentally. There's my video. Current time, 2:58. This is why. It got all confused and it started in the middle, which is not what I wanted. So it showed a start. This is just the way the video loaded. The problems with testing. This is what I want to do. I'm going to reset this whole thing. So, but I'm glad this happens because this is why you saw me initially. I tried to drag it back to the very beginning because I'm testing 5, 10 seconds and 15 seconds in. So it's fired when it started. That was the thing. It said, oh, there's a start. And it did not fire anything else because it started past 15 seconds in the video. So the other ones didn't fire. So it was working, just not working the way we wanted it to. So I'm going to come back here. We're going to make sure we go all the way down to 0. And then we're going to try to refresh this one more time. This is also helpful to do multiple incognito windows sometimes too, just to help make sure that you've got a nice clean installation. So there's our event down here. Again, same thing, but this is why we always TBV it by saying, okay, what should happen and did it happen? So now what I should see is YouTube video for the start and then fire 5 seconds in, 10 seconds in, 15 seconds in. Let's make sure we start at 0, which we did not do again. Come on, YouTube video. How do I get this to clear out its cache? Tell you what, here's what we're going to try to do. I'm going to close this thing out entirely. Let's bring this page back here. And let's see if we can't get this thing to reload and reset because it keeps wanting. I love YouTube, but it does keep trying to do a little bit too much thinking for me. I don't want to start 5 minutes in. All right, try this one more time. And it's still doing it. Oh my gosh. All right. Just want it to reset 5 minutes in. Let's see if I can get this to come on, YouTube. Okay. Now, you know what I'm going to try to do? There is a weird little setting. I've never really had this much issue with this thing. Let's find share. I don't want to do this. I'm going to do time. I'm going to go to our actual, see this? How it all starts at 497. That's great. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to share this, and I'm going to start at 0 so that this thing stops doing this. Okay, so let's try embed code. And I need it to be starting at 0. And all I'm doing right here is just, again, you may or may not have the ability to do this. And I'm not even seeing where it's going to let us do the time. Let's see. There it is, start equals 1. Okay, so I'm going to add this. I'm just going to go into the back end of my demo site really quickly here. And we're going to add start equals 1 to our embed code because this is going to solve my problem forever. I don't have to worry about this stupid thing anymore. Outthinking me, trying to outthink me. So give me just a moment. And I'm going to jump into this. It's kind of the reason why we have to do this live, because sometimes you have to deal with junk like this. But that's okay. Now, we know, here's the thing. I know this is working because I can see the start there. I just can't tell the 5, 10, 15 seconds. I got two things I can do. I could obviously make it 15 seconds or switch it to 5 minutes or whatever. But for now, I'm going to solve two problems at once, which is going through and making sure that this particular problem never happens again. But I'm going to have it start at 1 second in, and it should work for us. So give me just a moment. We're going to refresh, and I'm hoping YouTube does not override that, which is entirely possible that it will. It might. We'll see. All right. So we're going to come into here and then say start equals 1. Update. Okay. So now I've updated that on our end. All right. Let's find out. Moment of truth. See if this thing works. We should start 1 second in. There we go. All right. So far, so good. So annoying clearing the cache. There's our second one, and we can see fire 2 times. There's our third one. We can see fired 3 times. There's our fourth one. All right. So that's that. Now, how do we know it's actually working? This is great. So I'm going to do this one more time because I'm really curious now. So if you start here and it starts in the middle. So we're going to pull this back. Okay, now I'm just going to refresh this. We're going to find out if we're right. Okay, so we're going to hit play again. Did this work the way I wanted it to? 1 second. Notice how I'm doing this. When I refreshed it, it didn't work again. It's because it's just a cache problem. We know it's working. This is just on your end. How this is working. This is what is slightly off about these things, but I'm not seeing it work here. So I'm going to refresh this one more time. And I just want to TBV and make sure that everything's coming through the way we think it's coming through. So again, we should see this fire when I hit play. There we go. So YouTube video, then YouTube video again. There's the 10 seconds right there. So it's 3 times here. And then one more for the 4th time. Perfect. Now I'm going to click into this event. We're going to pull this up here so you can see this. And we're going to see, all right, track event, what actually got passed through. I can click on here and I can see the details. There's the YouTube. Here's the actual YouTube name itself. That was 15 seconds. You can see that's coming through. Now I'm going to TBV and analytics. So I go into my real-time reports, which is where we look for this stuff. Go to events. Did it actually come through in Google Analytics? There's my event category, video. I can click on that. Here's all the different YouTube videos reporting. I can click on these and I can see the specifics. So, 1 second in, 10 second in, there's the ones that were a little longer when we were showing that, how that was all messed up at the beginning until I adjusted the YouTube code. So remember, some of the stuff is frustrating, but remember, it's working. We knew even back here it was working. It was just that it wasn't firing the other times because it was already 258 seconds in. And that's when they were starting. So just keep that stuff in mind. When you're debugging your setup, sometimes it is just, it is working, but it's not working the way you think it's going to, which is why it's so important to get in the habit of, okay, what should happen, now let's see if it happens, because that helps you debug things really quickly. Because I could have gone down the rabbit hole of why does it see the start, but it doesn't see the times, because I was assuming that it was starting at the beginning, but it obviously wasn't in this case. And now, of course, we got it fixed so that it is. Okay, so with that, we've talked about YouTube, believe it or not. And I know this is where the part of, especially if you're just getting started with this, if you're already like, okay, I'm not ready for this, that's cool. Come back and watch this workshop when you are. That's why they're here. And when Google Analytics, when Google Tag Manager, in fact, in the Win courses, and for sake of time, I'm gonna move on to Vimeo after this. But in the courses here, when Google Tag Manager Beyond Basics talks about YouTube tracking, so you can get in there and learn about at least different engagement things. So they're always in there for you, so you have them. And of course, if you're an Academy member, you have access to this workshop as well. So you've got those. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about was in the toolbox, and everybody, no matter what type of member you are, you have access to the toolbox. In the toolbox, there's something called the GTM Cookbook. So in the GTM cookbook, which looks like this, let me go all the way back up to the top. This is bad Mercer having this in the middle. All right, there we go. This is the cookbook. So the Google Tag Manager cookbook. This is all sorts of recipes you can do with Tag Manager, some of which are video related. So there's HTML5 video tracking that you can do. There's Vimeo video tracking. There's Wistia video tracking. There's Vidyard tracking. There's YouTube tracking. So you have all these different things. This is an older version of YouTube tracking, which you probably won't need anymore because YouTube triggers exist. I would do the YouTube using YouTube triggers the way that we just talked about because they're built into Tag Manager, and they're always going to be the most updated version of YouTube and everything else because those are Google's. So you want to use those. So I would not use this one, but we are about to use Vimeo, or we technically use Vimeo as a platform. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to come into our site, in our little demo site here. We'll bring it up. And in our demo site, I'm going to go back. I believe we have another one. And I'm going to turn off in Tag Manager. I'm going to leave preview mode. So we don't have that on at the moment. So we're going to go back into our demo site. And then right down here, we say, how about this video? This is Vimeo. How do we know it's Vimeo? And you get used to this. They all have the same look. So Vimeos all have this look, whereas the blue bars, the little gear for the most part, you can right click and you can inspect the frame. This is the iframe. And you can see sometimes go through here and you see, oh, Vimeo. This is how you know. So if you're ever wondering, like, I'm not sure what video platform they're using, just kind of do this stuff and you see brand names stuffed in the code somewhere in here. So that's how that works. I'm going to click this. And again, all I did to do that was right click and then go to view, either inspect the frame or to view frame source. Either way, you'll come through here and just kind of look around. You can control F Vimeo, right, and get in there. So there's lots of different ways to look and confirm what the player is, or just ask your client or ask whoever put the video on there. After a while, they have a certain look to them. They all have a certain look where you go, oh, that's a video, or this is a video, or Vimeo, or YouTube. But in this case, we know it's YouTube. So I'm going to set up Vimeo, and we're going to do this using our little cookbook. So I wanted to show you this. So this is on page 47. So what I'm going to do is scroll down to page 47, and I'm going to show you exactly how I would do this. So this Vimeo tracking sort of talks about, hey, here's what it is, here's the recipe, here's the instructions, to go through it. They will give you a link to the original because most of these we did not create. So we're going to click here. We can go to the recipe. So we go to the recipe itself. The very first thing I do is I will take a look at these dates. 2017 in Tag Manager world, old, really old. Okay, so I don't know if this is still good or not. So the first thing that I do is I come down and I look at comments. So I'll go through and say, hey, all of a sudden you see, oh, it doesn't show this. And did somebody say it? And oh, here's one that does the trick, right? This is like a year ago. So this is, at this point, 2019 is when this was, as of this recording date. So I come through and I kind of see if there are any problems with it because things change in Tag Manager's world. It's hard to keep these things updated. But that's why we link out to the originals because obviously people are. So you can see here, it's like, oh, Analytics Mania's got some stuff. I believe this is Julius. Yes, this is Julius's site. He's fantastic for a lot of technical stuff. And he originally pulled it from Lunametrics, which was Bounteous. Little trivia, I know. But Lunametrics and Bounteous are the same company. So he's got a nice little container file here. So what we're going to do is we're going to download this. All you need to do is we're going to click on here. Now this is where it gets a bit beyond basics. So if you're just starting out with Tag Manager, do not try this at home until you have some experience. If you're on the edge where you're kind of like, man, I'm not sure if I'm ready for some new stuff, but I've done tags, triggers, and variables. I've got events rocking. I already been tracking a bunch of things. I want to be able to measure more stuff, and I want to learn how to import and export containers. This is what we're about to do. Now I'm going to go fast through this because this is a container. It's what it looks like as we go through this, and it's super technical and a bunch of gobbledygook through here. And it's tough to get through this. So if you're just starting out, again, do not try this at home. What I want to do is I want to show you how to actually import containers. So we're going to go here. I'm going to save link as. This is going to pull up our little handy dandy menu. And we're just going to say download. Okay, so I'm going to say this is going to be my, and I'm doing this off screen, I realize, but Vimeo container. I'm just saving that to our desktop is all I'm doing there. So now it's saved, Vimeo container right there. Now I'm going to come into Tag Manager and I'm going to import. So this is something, again, if you have never done this before, and I'm going to go through it a little faster. There are workshops we have on importing and exporting, or ask an instructor when you go through it. I am going to show you the safest way to import containers because you can absolutely blow out your container, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to replace your container. You just want to add stuff to it. So I'm going to show you how to do that. We go to import containers, and again, just to show you how I got there, go to admin, under your container, import container, choose the container file. I'm literally just going to drag this in, choose that container file, right? Oh, that didn't work. I thought it was going to. That's all right. Hit the back button, and I'm going to choose container file. We're going to have to do it old school. So now we're going to upload the Vimeo container file right there. Now choose a workspace. I'm going to use an existing workspace, which is the default. If you said new, it would ask you for a name. If you've never used workspaces before, again, it's a little more advanced, but typically you're going to be in the default workspace anyway. This is the important part. It says overwrite or merge. Now down here, this is also very important. It will tell you what it's about to do. So here, if I say overwrite, it says, oh, 2 new tags will be added. 10 of your tags will be deleted. 2 new triggers will be added. 5 of your triggers will be deleted. 4 new variables will be added. 26 of your variables will be deleted. And 1 template's going to be deleted. So I don't want any of that to happen, right? This is why you look at this. And really, you probably will never do override. So you will mostly, almost always use merge, which is what we do. So then you have merged. Look at the story. 2 added, 0 deleted. 2 added, 0 deleted. 4 added, 0 deleted. Nothing deleted. That's what we want to see. So then it says overwrite. Do you want me to just, if this has been imported before and you have the same tag trigger variable with the same name, do I just replace it or do I rename it? I personally do rename. This is the safest possible way to import a container. So you put in your container file, which you've downloaded from someplace else. You put it in your default workspace, and then or another workspace. If you're more advanced, you can use other workspaces, but default workspace for most of you. Never overwrite, always merge, and always rename. That way, just in case something's the same name, you've got it covered. So now I'm going to click on confirm, and it's all imported. So what just happened? So you can see all the workspace changes that are here. Now, how do I know that did it? Because a few seconds ago is what this now says. This is the stuff we did earlier. This is a few seconds ago. So these are all the changes that have come through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at our tags, triggers, and variables. We're going to see kind of what happened here and what it's trying to do. So I'm going to go to tags first. Now, again, a lot of this is going to be technical and beyond the expertise of most people watching this. This is a script in here. It's got the script. It's got some details around who wrote the script. Again, I'm not a JavaScript expert by any means. I kind of know some basics of JavaScript. I can get my way around. For me, that's good enough because more advanced stuff, I just hire other people to do. But I can see here it's pushing, defining some variables. It's doing a little bit of data layer pushing, as things are coming through. There are some ways that you can edit and adjust these. Again, if you're not technical, I wouldn't even worry about it because it's going to be out of the box. Should be pretty good. It says play, pause, finish, play progress is there. And it's pushing these things into the data layer. There's also a part where you can adjust percentages as they come through, how much is listening. There's your track progress, 25, 50, 75, and 100. So it has that. And again, if you have somebody on your team that's a little more technical, you can have them adjust these scripts to do that. But this is what it's doing by default, at least what it's trying to do. So that's the tag. Then there's the trigger. And the trigger is when the video player is present, right? So if there's a video player present, then that's where it's gonna fire. So we're gonna keep that for now. Then what I'm gonna do is we're gonna go to let's see, I'm gonna go by last edited because I want to keep all these a few seconds ago. This is the other one that's a few seconds ago. This is automatically pushing through the event into Google Analytics. Okay, so this is very important because I don't want it to be in this however they're going to define it. I need it to be how I'm going to define it, which is video. So I'm going to overwrite this and I'm going to say video because that's how I want my Vimeos to be. And then, actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to show you something else, even cooler. I'm going to keep this like it is, but I'm going to pause this because I don't want this tag firing yet because I don't know what it looks like yet. So we're going to click on save because this tag is not actually set up at all the way I want it to be set up yet. So I've just paused it so it doesn't do anything. Now, if the tag is not doing anything, nothing's being sent anywhere. So what do we have left? We have just the trigger and the variable, and that's what we can use to see is this thing even working, right? Does Tag Manager even work? So there's a trigger here that says that the video player is present. There's variables that have been set up. Again, we're not going to get into the deep dive details of this stuff to come through. You can see last edited. There's 2 minutes ago now because it's been a couple minutes. These are the variables that were added, some data layer variables that have come through. Personally, I would rename these to my own naming conventions. I use capital DLV, so I would rename them to all of that. But for now, we're just going to see if this is working for sake of time. So we're going to click on preview. And we're going to come through. And so I've got a little preview turned on. Now what I'm going to do is we're going to see if this even works out of the box. The first thing that I want to do, I'm going to close these out. Thank you, Julius. Analytics Mania, a great site, by the way. And we're going to refresh this page, see if we can get Tag Manager on there, make sure that we're looking at the right stuff. What this will tell us is that our event video interaction is paused. You can see the little pause there. So that's good. We know that's not going to fire. But what's going to happen? What should happen is kind of what happened with YouTube. We would see something, some sort of interaction. We should see some sort of event coming through here that lets us know the Tag Manager can see it. Let's find out if we do or not. because this is always the good first step to see if this is up and running. And I don't see anything that's currently working with this. Okay, I don't see anything that's currently working with this. So what we would need to do is I want to see the variables. We're going to go to page view, and I'm going to go to our custom JavaScript variable. Now these are all, remember, all these videos, these are the YouTube videos built in, right? So this doesn't have anything to do with anything right now. We have to use the new variables that were specific to our Vimeo here. I see those. I see custom JavaScript Vimeo is present true. So I see that working. So it looks like all the stuff is working. So why didn't it fire, right? And it didn't fire. Let's see what we can have here. So we see page view, tag's not fired here. At DOM ready, there's the tag fired. So it should have listened, at least going forward at DOM ready, but we didn't actually see any events coming through when we hit the play. So I don't actually see this working. And this is the beauty of pulling stuff off the internet. So because I don't see this, I don't see us actually, I'm going to do one more quick test, reload this video. So what I'm looking for is it listening? And right now, this is our video listener. So the script fired. This script is supposed to listen for Vimeo stuff. So that script fired. So we're going to come down. We're going to pull this out. Again, don't see anything firing here. So it's like, all right, well, that's no bueno. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rip all this stuff out that I just put in because it's not working. So I'm going to come through here. We're going to go to overview. I'm not even going to worry about the tag. Like, who cares? Because I can't even get the thing to listen for anything yet, right? So who cares about the tag? We don't even, or the sending to Google Analytics thing. So I'm going to come through. Here's my all 5 minutes ago. And what we're going to do is I'm going to click here. Now I'm in the overview screen. This is another useful little beginner tip. It's super useful. Even though it's advanced, don't realize they can do this. I'm going to click in here. I'm going to abandon the change, which gets rid of it. So I'm getting rid of that. And I'm going to go into, so label. Actually, I'm going to start top down. Let's get rid of these. Abandon, not view. Sorry, that was me clicking too fast. Click here. We're going to go to abandon the change. That should get rid of it for us. If there's a conflict, it's going to give us a little thing that says, oh, you can't abandon it because there's a conflict. See this where it says custom video action. There's a trigger I got to get rid of. So I go, cool. Let me go get rid of the trigger first. So I'm going to come down to our custom JavaScript variable. Get rid of that. Abandon the change. Let's see what's going on. This is the... I'm going to try this one. We're going to abandon the change. Let's use another entity. I realize, oh, you know what? Right here. So where's the one that you know what? It's because of the one I paused. Let me get into this. This one, I'm going to delete. Because everything is trying to use this, and I can't get rid of this one because it was paused. So there we go. Now I'm going to go back to overview, and we should be able to get rid of that. We should be getting rid of that because all these little notices that were popping up like this is saying, hey, it's being used someplace else. You can't do anything yet with that. So I'm going to try to delete everything that I can, and now get rid of all the variables. And now I should be able to get rid of this because this isn't used by anything else. In a perfect world, still looks like it is though. Where is this? Page view. This is another trigger I got to get rid of. There's a page view trigger right there. Video player is present. Get rid of that. Abandon the change. And then there's a custom JavaScript variable. Abandon the change. So now everything's gone for how I want. Now, I didn't have to do all that. I'm just playing around with stuff, trying to show you all the fun ins and outs of Tag Manager. I could have published the old YouTube video, made a nice little container. I could have reverted my container. I could do all that stuff. Makes it a lot easier. So don't do what I'm doing. I know it's kind of like do as I say, not as I do. But if you try to do too much stuff, you'll have 47 different things. I do it all the time in demo accounts. Do not do that in your production. Do a change, preview it, make it work, publish it. That's what I should have done because I'm just trying to show you a bunch of stuff at once. I should not have done that. Push it in YouTube and then publish it and great. Then I pushed in the other one. It would have been that way. All this stuff would have been there. In fact, because I have a very bad habit of doing this with DView, I'm going to say, hey, this is YouTube works. I'm going to publish this and I'm going to actually do what I just told you should be doing anyway. So we're publishing the YouTube one because we already knew that worked. We TBV'd that stuff. So now if I come to Workspace, it's nice and easy. I got only the changes that I made. I could have just easily abandoned them. It would have been a lot easier for me to find that stuff. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how we have this set up. And then what I will also do for you is making sure that the tag trigger variables that we're using for this are going to be linked because I'm pretty freaking positive we've actually used the exact same recipe from Lunametrics. So I'm going to pull that from them. So I'm going to go back to our cookbook. I'm going to go back to the recipe. And what I'm going to do is, so you find our complete documentation and handle link download entire file here. We're going to do that from Bounteous. There's our video tracking. Then we're going to download the file, which is here. I'm going to right click. I'm going to save link as. We're going to call this video tracking. And all I'm doing is the same thing I did with Analytics Media script, but we're going to do it with this one. Why is that? Because people sometimes make adjustments and they fork things. Sometimes it could have been an older one, right? We don't know yet. I'm not going to judge good, bad, or ugly yet. I'm just going to, okay, it's not that Vimeo doesn't work because people track videos all the time. You've seen us already tracking Vimeo, but it just didn't work the way I thought it was going to. So we're going to go back to Tag Manager, and now I'm going to import this container instead of this container. So how do we do that? Admin. We go to Import Container, and I'm going to go much faster here. Choose the container file. We're going to choose Luna Vimeo Tracking, which is our container. We're going to use an existing workspace, which is our default. We're never going to overwrite. We're always going to merge. We're always going to rename. I'm just TBVing that deleteds are all zeros so that nothing goes away. Nothing's modified. So that's good. It's just being added. I'm going to click on confirm. Now I've got my new container. There's all my changes just from a few seconds ago. Now what we're going to do is go through and make sure that all of this gets set up properly. So we should have this up and running. So I'm going to pause first my event that they are firing for me. This is kind of the good and the bad thing about these setups is they try to push everything into, excuse me, this is not the right one, I don't believe. Maybe this is the right one. Look at that. So they're all using video action data. See this? Already different stuff here. So, but I am going to pause this. So, because I don't want it to send anything yet to Google Analytics. So we're going to, stay here, save our pause. Now our tag's been paused. And then we still have that script, which is here. It says, now this is a custom video tracking script. So they've named it something different, but I click into it, you will notice it looks different too. It didn't start with all this other stuff. So it's a slightly different script. It's just somebody else that maybe have updated it. Let's see if this one works. We're going to click on preview. We already have preview. So we got refresh. Now I'm going to go to our page of Vimeo. There we go. Bring this over here. And I want to do the exact same thing. So let's try to refresh this page. We should see that our script is firing, which it is right here. There's our Lunametrics plugin, which again, Lunametrics is Bounteous, same company, just mental note. So if I click here, let's see if we actually got anything working. Look at that. Vimeo track. So much easier. So what do we learn? Multiple things are on the internet, multiple scripts are on the internet, multiple people changing multiple things in multiple ways. Not all of them work for you and for your situation. For me, this is a bare bones WordPress installation, but something was clearly getting in the way. I had two options. One, I freak out, save, it's all busted. I'm never going to learn this stuff, and I move on. Two, I go, okay, it didn't work the way I thought it was going to. Let's go see if there's another script that's out there. And there was. In fact, it was the actual one that I should have just used because it was the one that we already put in the video player. But I tell you, I will always still go through comments. And if something's newer, I will try the newer one first because newer ones you would think would be working. But in this case, the old one actually seems to be working just fine. So we've got video tracking coming through. So this is fantastic. Now, this particular one is 25, 50, 75%, doesn't have a timer trigger for seconds. If I really needed that, I would pass that through to a developer or something and say, hey, can you just take this script and adjust it for 10 seconds or 20 seconds or whatever? So there's always those options because remember, you're kind of pulling something out of the box. But if I go to variables at this point in time, and I scroll down, I see these little DLVs, video action, play, video name. There's the video name. And then, of course, it'll push through progress as you have progress, right, coming through here because that's what it's designed to measure. So that's the stuff that I would actually pass through into my Google Analytics. And again, TBV that. I can go through and there's my Vimeo tracking. And I'm going to push it through as a video because we don't use videos. We use video as an event. So I'm going to change the category to video. Then there's the video action. So I'm going to say... and then video name. So what I'm going to do is flip that out. So I'm going to click in this, get rid of video name. And this is going to be video action, which is play 10, 15, 20, pause, whatever it is. And this I'm going to say Vimeo, because that's the video here. And then I'm going to put in video name. So it's that. So I'm just flipping things around. I'm customizing for what it's going to be. Something else you will notice is when you import containers, they do it the old style, which is this is back before the Google Analytics setting variable used to exist. So I'm disconnecting this and I'm going to say, nope, just use my gas variable. So a little update there. So video, Vimeo, DLV. And now I'm going to unpause it because I think it'll work just fine. So now we're going to click on save. And we're going to refresh our preview. Let me do this one more time. Assume it doesn't make a liar out of me, we should be good to go. So we've got our Lunametrics video working. Click on play. There's Vimeo track number 1. There's our event that got fired. I can go through here. I can see what specifically Vimeo getting started. There's the title, and then play, come into analytics. And I should be able to say, click off these. There's my video. And then Vimeo getting started. There's the guide, and then play. And of course, 25% way, 50% of the way, 75% of the way, it fires those points because that's what it's set up to do. So there you've learned how to set up some Vimeo. And you've also learned that this stuff is not going to be as out of the box easy all the time because 2 reasons, and it never will be. 2 reasons. One is Vimeo may have changed a few things, or the people that are doing the scripts changed a few things because they were doing it for their site and their tech stack, and it wasn't exactly what you're using or your tech stack. Or I'll give you a third option. The tech stack changes things. So it could have been that WordPress does stuff differently now, and so it doesn't work. That new one could have worked last year, but it doesn't work this year because WordPress went through some updates, maybe. Who knows? In my view, who cares? I just want to find out which one's working the best way and doesn't seem to conflict with anything, which we just found. And it was, again, the one that links to the cookbook. Now, you can do the same thing with Wistia. I can tell you at this recording, some of the Wistia ones work. Some of the Wistia ones don't. Some of the Wistia ones work somewhat. Some of them don't. And it's because Wistia is changing things and the people with scripts are changing things. So what I would always do is if you find something that works or works enough for you or shows some signs of working, go to a developer and say, hey, take this. Here's my player, or my Wistia player. And only find one that knows Tag Manager and knows how to do custom scripts and everything else. There's lots of them out there that know JavaScript better than you and I ever will. And just go in there and have them update it and say, hey, can you get this thing working so I can do 5, 10, 15, 20 seconds or 10, 25, 55, 75, whatever the thing is that you need. And you'll find that there are lots of people out there. Thousands and thousands of people in this world have that skill set. So that's why I personally don't choose to learn it because I know other people already have dedicated their lives to it. And I'm never going to be as good as they are. So I will use their superpower because I just need to know, my superpower is figuring out that I need to know the video stuff and what to do with that information anyway. Their superpower is helping me to edit these scripts to get them working. So just know that if you can't find it within a couple of times, send it to a developer. That's what I would do. And then with Wistia, I believe you're going to have to do that at least for now until there's some updates done. We are also currently playing around with that and sending it to people as well to get them to update scripts. And anything that we update will always be in this guide. So that's why I would never save this guide. I would always access it through the resources, come into the GTM cookbook. You'll see it here. It will always be the most recent updated version with whatever the most recent updated links are for the different scripts that we have. So just a little mental note for you there. And of course, anybody watching this can get access to this stuff so that you have it. Okay. With that, I'm going to come to a close because this is one of the longest Workshop Wednesdays we have ever done. And I will never do one of these long ones again for you. I promise. It's just too much. I know. But I wanted you to see a beginner's guide in terms of the YouTube stuff. It's pretty quick and easy, but YouTube has its quirks when you're testing, and lots of people think it's not working when it really is working. And you saw me go through that nightmare. And you kind of just keep calm and go, okay, is it working? Why is it not working? Okay, it's a testing thing. Cool. Figured it out, right? So that's the YouTube stuff. Then there's the Vimeo stuff of kind of going down the rabbit hole, looking through people's comments and see what scripts are on there. That's also how you do it for other custom scripts. If it's Wistia or HTML5 players or any other custom script, audio players for podcasts, you can find a lot of scripts out there for Tag Manager, but you kind of go down this weird rabbit hole of kind of works, sometimes works, doesn't work, didn't work at all, totally works all the time. And you saw that with the Vimeo script. I tried stuff out, didn't work. Then I came in, went through the different way, technically the way I should have done it, because that's what the cookbook actually linked to. And it was the older script that actually worked. So we're just going to use that. That's working just fine. I'm going to keep what's working. And that is the actual one that we use on our site. I was just checking in the background. So we use that in our production site as well. And it works just fine. So just a couple of things. And again, know that you can customize these scripts. You don't have to keep these scripts up and running. You can just say, hey, go to the go to the developer and walk them through it. I've installed. I need a custom script that listens for these points in the video, and then the videos will adjust. And as video players come up with new fancy features like opt-ins and everything else that they do, you can create listeners for those. because they're probably not going to be out there in the marketplace right away, but your developer can help you with that. And of course, as you need advice with this, if you're just trying to, if you followed along with us, and remember, we also talked about import and exporting containers, but that is slightly more advanced. I want to warn you, and never overwrite. You just say merge and then rename, and you always TBV to make sure that you have your containers there. Worst case, if you accidentally overwrite your container, you can revert it back using versions in GTM. But reach out to Ask an Instructor support. We will help you with all this stuff if you accidentally do it. But if you just make sure that you merge the container and you rename all the tags and triggers, worst case, you'll have a duplication of stuff, and that's it. But that's a lot better than not having them at all. Okay, with that, I'm going to come to a close here. Make sure if you have not yet gotten your win on, if you're not yet a member or have any of the courses, measure.tips/courses if you're interested, including all the different wins we showed you before. And next week's topic will be Beyond Basics. I know this feels like it really was. Honestly, I should have called this one Beyond Basics, but I have faith in you. You can learn this. So Beyond Basics, we're actually talking about building an automated funnel tracking system. So kind of an automatic funnel tracking system for you. And that will also be free for those of you who are Workshop Wednesday. So you can see that Workshop Wednesday is part of the Measure Marketing Toolbox. If you're not yet a Toolbox member, you get access to this, the GTM cookbook, all the other stuff you saw in the resources section. It's all free. So just go to measure.tips/WW to sign up for that if you are not yet a Workshop or Toolbox member. And of course, if you're a Win Monthly Pass member or an Academy member, you already have that stuff too. So that's included. All right. With that, we will bring this one to a close. This has been Getting Started using Google Tag Manager to measure video player interactions. We will see you on the next workshop. Take care.